Hey guys, my name is Chantel. Welcome back to my channel and thanks for hanging out with me today. So today we are going to be talking about Idolish7 third beat episode 6. So I do apologize that this video is gonna go out late because the day I'm recording this is on Thursday. So sorry about that. I just was really busy this week. Anyway, so let's get right on to it. So this week's episode pretty much starts off with Yuki overhearing Ryo and Momo's conversation, and you just hear Momo like freaking out, and he's like, why are you here? If Yuki finds out, like, this will be bad. So again, Yuki overhears and he goes in and he's like, what are you talking about? Like, what is going on? And Yuki's trying to hope for like an explanation, I guess, or hoping that this isn't like the case. And Momo is like freaking out, trying to come up with excuses, but then Ryo is like, nope, he's trying to help me to take down everybody. He's gonna use Yamato to bring down one of the industry peoples, whatever they're called, like one of the companies. And Yuki is furious. He's like, there's no way, like, why are you doing this? And while Momo's freaking out, he whispers something into Yuki's ear, and then Yuki pushes him and slaps him, and I was like, ooh, like, I was not expecting that. And I was just like, damn, Yuki must be like, annoyed or disgusted or something. And poor Momo, man, he's just like telling Ryo to like get out, because Ryo is just like entertained by this whole thing, but he does leave. And then Yuki's like, are you alright? And as soon as he says that, I was like, huh, like, what's going on here? And Momo's like, okay, hold on a sec. And he like starts acting out like that he's very much upset after what happened. And then Momo and Yuki pretty much explain to us like that whole thing was fake, like that was just an act. And Yuki feels really bad for slapping Momo. So Momo basically explains that this whole time he's just been trying to get information out of Ryo-san and trying to figure out who is behind this and who he has to go with his plan, so he can go and ask these people to not do that and see what he can do. And when Momo explains this, I had two different types of feelings. One, very surprised and shocked, because like, again, it's like 6 episodes in and we were told to believe that Momo was gonna go along with Ryo-san's plan and that he was gonna sell out Yamato, right? This whole time is what the anime has made me believe until now when we hear this out of Momo. But here's the thing, for me personally, I have a hard time like accepting that, just because again, it's 6 episodes in and I'm like, I don't know if I believe you, Momo. I don't know why, but for some reason I'm like finding it hard to believe. Like, again, I want to believe Momo with all my heart, but like a part of me is like, I don't know, I feel like something like could be up, or maybe something's gonna happen that he's gonna like have to go along with it or something. But throughout the whole episode, that's obviously not the case. Momo did show that he was never with Ryo-san. He was just going along with it to get information and try to get everyone out of this. So in other words, I am sorry I doubted you, my baby boy. I'm so happy though and relieved that he is not going along with this plan, because if he did, that would, like I said, it would have eaten him up alive and it just would have made me even sad. But thankfully that's not the case. So yeah, but even then, with Momo not going along with Ryo-san's plan, it does scare me though, because if Ryo-san does find out that he was never with him or something, like, we don't know what Ryo-san is capable of, because he is a little nutty. He's a little crazy. I'm not even sure what Ryo-san is really capable of, but I feel like he can take things a little far. So I don't know what he'll do to Momo if he finds out that Momo just ruined his plans or something. I don't know, And speaking of Ryo-san, he does come back into the room, and I love that both Yuki and Momo have to act out that they're still fighting, which is hilarious. And of course, as soon as he leaves, both of them like stop. But this is actually when we start to hear Yuki's true feelings, and I like that Momo was like, man, I can't believe you actually believe that I would do something like this, like go with Ryo-san's plan. And Yuki basically said what I thought was, this is Momo, sometimes sometimes he can get emotional. Sometimes he will do whatever it takes in order to protect the people that he loves and cares about. We don't really know like what he's gonna really choose. And I love that Momo is like, okay, but if it was Banri, you would have trusted him 100%. And he's like, well, yeah, because Banri isn't an indecisive. He knows what he wants and what he's gonna do. And Momo gets a little bit jealous. He's just like, But I love that Yuki tells him, hey, do you want to hear my song that I just finished for the movie? And I think it's so cute because, again, last week's episode, Yuki and Banri were talking about that and how Yuki was like, hey, do you want to listen to my song to Banri? And Banri was like, I don't think Momo's gonna like that. So now we're seeing this like with Momo, and it's just so cute because Momo gets all excited, and it's just ugh. And then I love that Yuki says, that he was the first person he tried his hardest for, not Banri. And I'm like, oh, like that's so sweet, And it just goes to show you back a few episodes from the flashback where he's working hard, and washing Yamato's dad's car. It tells me that he definitely was working hard for Momo specifically. I think that was like the sweetest thing ever, and it just goes to show you that Yuki obviously very much cares for Momo in his own way, and he's very much grateful for everything that Momo has done for him, and just that Momo is in his life. Moving on to the next part that I want to talk about, which is about Yamato. So this part is kind of hilarious because Yamato kind of goes into like the living room. He goes in, and I guess he was trying to see if anyone was there, and then I love that Nagi was like, hi, and then Yamato like freaks out. It's so funny seeing Yamato's reactions. It almost feels like, just watching a kid that's gotten in trouble and the mom is just waiting in the living room to hear the explanation. That's what it felt like, just seeing Nagi and Yamato's interaction there. It was just so funny to me. I love that Nagi basically asks Yamato if he's gonna tell him everything, and Yamato's like, yeah. And in that instant, Nagi starts making phone calls and text messages to everyone saying like, hey, come on over, we're gonna hear Yamato's confession. And Yamato's like, Nagi, why did you do that? Like, he is like so horrified and embarrassed, and it's so funny to me because like when I was trying to read the text messages that they wrote, I think it was Gaku or Ten that said, what the heck is he getting married? Or something like that. The props to the translator, man. Like, I know that's probably not that easy to translate like the messages so quickly, but just the little tiny glimpse that I could see from the messages was hilarious. So anyway, both Rivale and Trigger come over to hear Yamato's confession that Nagi was making a whole big deal out of this. It was so funny. Like, this whole moment has to be serious, right? But like, just seeing Nagi being extra and just making the most out of this whole thing is hilarious. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I feel bad for Yamato, but at the same time, he kind of deserves it because after all the pain that he's put everyone through, this is the least that Nagi can put him through, just make him a little bit embarrassed, Anyway, so once everyone gets in, Yamato tries to say like, oh, it's not a big deal, you guys shouldn't even be here. And as soon as he says that, Yuki takes this opportunity to like, poke fun a little bit at Yamato, and he tells everybody a story. And it's so funny. Like, this part had me laughing so hard because like Yuki's voice like gets altered, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, it's one of those like random interviews that you see like on TV where like someone doesn't want to be known, like when they're talking, like Yuki's like doing that, and it's just so funny to me. And poor Yamato is like so embarrassed, and he's just like, can you guys please stop? Like that, like this is enough, I cannot take this. But I mean, this is the least that they could do after everything that Yamato has put everyone through. This is payback for bringing us into this world of pain these past few episodes, Anyway, so Gakko picks up on what Yuki was saying. He's like, who was the really famous person that Yuki was mentioning that you guys were at their house? And oh, like it was Chiba Shizu. And Gaku already was like super impressed. He's like, oh my gosh, you know someone like that? Like, that's really impressive. And that's when Yamato's like, yeah, he's my dad. And just everyone's reactions was so funny. Like, they cannot believe it. And Gaku's like, but I've never heard about him having a kid. Like, he's supposed to be like this loyal, loving husband. And I also love that Ten was like, you're being a little insensitive, shut up. But Yamato explains, well, I'm what you would call a secret love child. And he basically explains what happened in his childhood. And we also get to know what Chiba Salon was about. So basically what Chiba Salon was about is that a whole bunch of people from the industry would come over to Yamato's house, and they would basically like let out like some really not so good industry secrets there, and everything always happened at that house, and they would always meet there at Yamato's house. And Yamato says, you know, even with all these people, like because of his dad, they would treat him good, and everyone was pretty kind to him, and you know, he had a normal upbringing until one day he saw his dad on TV, and that's when he starts asking questions like, why are they lying? And you know, him as a kid, he does his own research and he understands, and he is angry and upset, and you know, as he should, because that's gotta be hard to find out as a kid that your dad has like this whole nother life and has like a completely different image in the public eye. On top of that, no one knows about Yamato. You know, he is hurt by that. Like, what kid wouldn't? And it just, you know, when Yamato's talking about his dad, I can kind of relate in an own weird way. And I think I say that just because I know what that's like, feeling like your dad betrayed you and just seeing him live like another life. That's kind of how I felt with my dad. So I mentioned a few videos ago when I was talking about Yamato, how with my parents, I grew up in a divorced household. So, you know, as a kid, I loved my dad. I thought that he could do no wrong, but then, you know, he wouldn't remember my birthdays, and he had like another family in another state and was living his life and, you know, spending time with his other kids. And, you know, as I got older, I started to grow a little bit bitter and angry, and I started questioning a lot, like, why is my dad living a different life? Like, why couldn't he have stayed with my mom? And just like a whole bunch of things like that as a kid. And, you know, as I got older, the more angrier I got at my dad. So just the way that Yamato felt about his dad, that's how I felt with mine. Obviously, it's a completely different situation, but like I could understand where he was coming from, you know, especially like I said, as a kid, you admire your parents, your dad, your mom, and then when you see a different side to them, you can't help but feel disappointed, and you're like, well, what's the truth? Like, what's going on here? And then you start asking a lot of questions. Moving back to Yamato, he does tell everybody that he doesn't talk to his dad, and basically also says that he would signal to his dad that he knew everything that happened at Chiba Salon. He knows. And the reason why he did that was because I'm pretty sure he wanted him to come talk to him and figure things out. And I guess that was like his own way of Yamato wanting his dad to care about him, because he felt like, I guess, like that his dad didn't care. And then on top of that, like just feeling what he did, like it's understandable. And again, I relate to Yamato in that sense. And you know, sometimes with your parent, if you want attention, you will try and seek it. But just hearing Yamato and how badly he wanted his dad to talk to him and show that he cared about Yamato was really sad. And again, like I said, I really related to that a lot in my own way. And I do love that Gaku was like, why didn't you like smack him or do something? And Yamato responds with, I'm not sure really. And he comes up with like different reasons why he probably didn't. And this part I really, really loved, because Riku already knows the answer to this. And he tells Yamato, it's because you love your dad. Even though, yes, like he hates him and, you know, he can't forgive him, deep down he cares and he loves his dad. And the reason why everything hurt Yamato so much with the things that his dad would do is because he cared, and you know, he wanted his dad to care. And that's actually when we start to hear Rico say, you know, that he understands Yamato because he was the same way with Ten, how he was angry at Ten, but at the same time, you know, he couldn't help but loving him, even though he wanted so badly not to forgive him, like he couldn't help it. Like, that's his brother, and he wanted Ten to come home and give an explanation and apologize. And I do love that as Riku is like saying how he felt, you see Ten like looking at Riku, and I think this is probably the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that Ten is really hearing how Riku felt when Ten left, because you can see in Ten's expression like he understands now how his brother felt, and you can tell like that makes him a little sad, and like I hope now Ten has a little bit of a better understanding with Riku and why he does certain things, but at least Ten like understands. Anyway, so Yamato actually then tells everyone the reason why he auditioned and how he felt ashamed because the more he got to know Idolish7, like everybody, and how hard everyone was trying and how everyone had like these hopes and dreams and they were so pure compared to his motives, he felt really, really bad. But at the same time, he wanted to try so hard for them and wanted to work hard for their dreams and, you know, accomplish things together. And he wanted to protect everyone. And that's when Mitsuki is like crying for him. And he's like, why are you apologizing? You shouldn't be apologizing. Your dad should be the one apologizing to you after everything that he's put you through. And I just love this moment between him and Mitsuki. Like, they're both like, you know, getting teary-eyed, and Mitsuki's like crying for him, and like I'm over here like trying not to cry this whole time, but like it was really sweet. And I love that everybody, I can't remember who says it, but everyone was like, we've been waiting for you to tell us all this for a while, like, you know, like we're here for you. And it seems like everything is all good with everybody. Like Yamato finally laid out his emotions, his feelings, and everything that he's been feeling and going through, and let everyone know about his past, and you know, everybody accepted him. One thing I want to mention is that when Yamato was talking about him being a secret love child, I freaking knew it. Is what I want to say before I forget to mention that, because it just popped into my mind. So ever since season 1, they've been hinting at Yamato's past and him being a secret love child, and that his dad was like this famous actor. They've been hinting at that since season 1, because if y'all remember that I said a few like videos ago that Nagi mentioned in season 1 how he heard this story of like these people falling in love, and then, you know, they had like a kid and it was like their secret love child, but then like the guy like abandoned them because, you know, he has like this image, and you know, I can't remember exactly how Nagi told the story, but the way that Idolish7 focuses on Yamato's face the whole time Nagi's telling the story, I was like, there's gotta be something more to that, which led me to believe that maybe there was a connection there with Yamato. And as the seasons went on and we start to learn a little bit more Yamato, I was like, I wonder if that is basically what they're hinting at, something with Yamato's past. And sure enough, I was like, you know, I think he might be like a secret love child. I think that story that Nagi was talking about is about Yamato. And sure enough, now in this episode, it's confirmed. And I'm like, you know, like I'm very like amazed by like everyone that's working on Idolish7. Like that was such a nice like subtle foreshadowing, I guess, and like hint to what was going to happen with Yamato in his past. Like that was a nice touch. And then again, like I said, they've been hinting at it since season 1, and now seeing it come full circle is pretty great. I really like it, and it's one of the things that I love about Idolish7. Anyway, so going back to talking about this episode, so Iori actually mentions how like there shouldn't be any problems, especially because Hoshikage, you know, hasn't been in a scandal, so Yamato should be safe, especially since he's not gonna like, you know, out his dad for anything. Until both Yuki and Mamoru are like, yeah, actually about that. And that's when they let them in on what Ryo-san was planning. And poor Yamato, his face is so horrified, and he's just like, I cannot believe this is happening. How do we get out of this? And everyone is just like very much nervous and is wondering like, how are we gonna get Yamato out of this? Like, how are we gonna fix this? And I can't remember who's asked. I think it was Riku. Riku was like, you didn't accept his offer, right? And I love how everyone looks at Momo. Everyone was like, I didn't actually say no. And like Trigger just looks at Momo like, huh? Like just the reactions were so funny. Like it shouldn't be that funny, but for some reason it made me laugh. But anyway, and then that's when Momo starts freaking out. He's like, I'm not trying to do anything, I swear. And he's like, you guys can like search me. Do you guys want me to strip? And I'm just like, Momo, calm down, calm down. But we did get to see a little bit of his abs, which was nice. Anyway, besides the point, Yuki tries to get him to calm down, and he explains that Momo is trying to come up with a plan. The reason why he didn't say no is because he's trying to get information out of Ryo-san and figure out like who's behind all this and who was willing to spill dirt about Chiba Salon. And both Momo and Yuki are basically saying they're trying to come up with something and trying to figure out like what to do. Momo says that he's just gonna go talk to them and see if he can figure something out. And then Yuki is like, well, I tried to talk to Yamato's dad and told him to humble himself and apologize to the people that he's hurt in the industry. And he basically told me to never come back to his house and show my face. And I love that everyone's reaction was like, I cannot believe you did that. Like that must have been like terrifying. And I love that Yuki kind of plays it off like it was no big deal. He's just like, yeah, it was scary, but you know, I did it because, you know, I want to protect everybody. But that's when he mentions to Yamato that he should call his dad and ask him for help. He's like, maybe your dad will listen if you tell him. And Yamato is like, I don't know if my dad will listen. I don't think he would. And I love that Ten tells him, no, he would. I'm pretty sure he's trying to find a way to, you know, be a family again. He wants to be a family. And that's when Yuki mentions, you know, that Yamato's dad, I'm sure he wants to do more for his son and not just send flowers, which I completely forgot that. I think it was in season 1 where somebody gets sent flowers and it had like no name on it, and everyone's like, well, let's just make it out to all of us since we don't know who it came from. I forgot about that. So we found out who the flowers were from, and that was from Yamato's dad. And I guess Yamato's dad is telling Yamato in his own way that, you know, he cares and maybe that he's proud of his son too, you know, because honestly, like, dads are really weird. At least like when you don't talk to them and like you're not as close as like how I'm not as close as with my dad, like they will do like little things that are kind of like not necessarily off or like funny or weird, just to try to connect with you and like try to be there for you in their own weird way. And they only do that because they just don't know how to connect with you or, you know, how to be a family with you. So I understand, like, I guess the dad's sentiment there too. Like he's showing in his own way that he does care for Yamato. And so Yamato ends up calling his dad. And so Yamato is like, but I don't know what to say to him. And so Yuki suggests, he's like, well, hit him with everything that you got, everything that you've been feeling as a kid up until now. Just tell him how you've been feeling. As he's saying this, Yamato thinks to his line in the movie. And I feel like when he thinks about that, it kind of like clicks as to like how his character is feeling and how he should act out that scene. And sure enough, we transition over to when Yamato is filming and we see that he finally finished filming, and like the director praises him and says like, that was such a good scene, like you did so great, it came out even better than I thought it would. And you can see just Yamato, he looks so happy and so like light and refreshed, and it just makes my heart really happy seeing him this happy, because now he no longer has like this dark cloud over him. Now he's free from it and he's happy after he told everyone in Idolish7 what happened in his story and they accepted him. And you know, we do get this last scene between Minami and Yamato. So Yamato basically gets to talk with Minami for a little bit, and it looks like Minami is a little bit disappointed because it seems like Minami was trying to get under his skin or like try to, I guess, get something out of him. And Yamato was like, well, the only thing I was afraid of was, you know, my group members, you know, taking the fall because I was like this, and I was just more afraid of what they would think about me. But now that that's over and done with, like, we're good. So sorry to disappoint you. And you know, we do see in Minami's face that he looks disappointed. It looks like he was probably looking for something else or trying to take something out of Yamato, but failed. Anyway, so after the credits, we do have a scene between Yuki and and Ryo-san. So these two are talking it out at Ryo-san's place, and Ryo-san basically mentions how Shizo-san retired and how like his plans to expose Chiba Salon will no longer be a thing. And you can tell that Ryo-san was very frustrated because then he starts like the way that he starts cutting up the steak was really scary and very much creepy, and like it just didn't give me good vibes. It's just like the whole scene, I felt a little bit uncomfortable, not gonna lie, just seeing Ryo-san freak out like that, because he mentions how he's like frustrated and annoyed. And I love that Yuki was like, you know, I've been annoyed for a while and I don't really like you, so yeah, I'm out. But I do love that Yuki went in place of Momo, because I feel like Yuki will not take anything from Ryo-san, and I'm sure Ryo-san will act differently with Yuki, obviously, than he does with Momo, so I think Yuki did that to protect Momo too. But anyway, after that, Yuki was trying to leave, and it isn't until Ryo-san is like, oh, well, I have a surprise for you coming up. And just the creepy smile that Ryo-san gives at the end, I was like, this is not good. Based on the preview for next week's episode, it looks like we're gonna get more Zool, and I have a feeling that Ryo-san, it was probably hinting at Zool. Who knows? Again, because I'm an anime only, I can only guess because we haven't gotten introduced to Zool as a group, so I'm hoping that's what it is, because most of this season we've been focusing more so on Yamato and his past, so now I feel like would be a good time to introduce Zool. So we'll see what happens in the next episode, but I'm really excited because seeing the Zool boys in the preview for next week's episode was really awesome. And one thing I gotta mention is like, I was not expecting to see Haruka in a high school uniform at the same school as Iori and Tamaki. So seeing them all three of them together in the preview was interesting. So I'm excited to see what that's about and see how that goes. So anyway, I'm excited. So that is it for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!